Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Livingston County Board of Commissioners. One of our commissioners will lead us in a moment of prayer.
Thank you, Chairman Domas. If you would bow your heads and join me. O Lord, we beg you to hear our supplications. Do not let our words fall on deaf ears. Let us come to you each morning with hearts full of joy, for you are our most high God, and everything we have comes from you. Bless us that we might bless others. Let us always look to you for every provision. Let us each be an open vessel filled with your wisdom, that others might know your saving grace, both now and ever and unto ages of ages. Amen.
Amen. Please stand for.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Commissioner Helserman,
Here.
Commissioner Domas,
Here.
Commissioner Sample,
Here.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Here.
Commissioner Drick,
Here.
Commissioner Deaton,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Fiani,
Here.
Commissioner Gross.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Motion agenda by Smith.
Second, Sample.
Moved and supported. Are there any questions or comments to be made? All those in favor, please signify by saying yes
Aye.
or aye. We have an agenda. We have one piece of correspondence from Ontonagon County. Chair will entertain a motion regarding the correspondence.
Motion to place on file.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on the correspondence? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Call to the public. Before we start the public, Madam Clerk, I want to make sure everyone understands that we're limited to 3 minutes for each person to get up and speak at this time. It's an opportunity for the public to express their feelings and thoughts about county government, and they should direct their comments to the board. All right, please.
The first card is Ella Nikitin from Heartland Township, followed by Tammy Higgins.
Hi, my name is Ella. I have lived in Heartland Township since 2005 when I was about yay big, somewhere around here. I came here to talk about the importance of transportation modes other than driving alone in a car. The first thing I want everyone here to understand is that not everyone can drive and that not everyone wants to drive. So I think it's important that we make it so that if you can't or don't want to drive, then you have other options available to you. So let me talk about what happened to me last week on Monday. I decided to take a walk down M59 in Heartland, and it was not a very good experience. First of all, the sidewalk there was extremely fragmented. So there would be a section of sidewalk, and then there would be the sidewalk would just end, and then there would be more sidewalk, and then it would end, and it would be in a different spot each time. And during that walk, I actually walked past the location where a few months ago someone died riding a bike, and I think that the lack of adequate sidewalks there actually contributed to this this accident. The other thing that I think is important is public transportation. Now, I am very grateful that in this county, Let's Transportation exists. It is a very valuable service to a lot of people. However, we need more. Right now, it is something that you have to book in advance, and they may not always be able to accommodate you. And it's unfortunate that sort of the best public transportation route that exists in this county is not even run by this county, but is in fact run by Michigan Flyer and by the city of Flint. I think this county needs to invest more in public transportation, specifically to expand Let's. And I think we need some fixed route services, like for example, the one that the 2018 master plan proposed along Grand River Avenue. I think that needs to become a thing. In general, this county needs to become a more hospitable place for those walking or biking. And we need to improve public transportation because not everyone can or wants to drive. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Tammy Higgins from Iosco Township, followed by Mary Ann Lampkin. And commissioners, Ms. Higgins did have a handout that we put at your seats.
Yeah, that's a picture that I snapped when I was driving down Grand River. I saw an elderly lady in a walker. And she was on the sidewalk and then she turned down onto that road and she was just walking in the road with her walker. I did go over and ask her if she needed any help and she said she was tired, but she thought that she would make it. But it is unfortunate. I know I tried to get the Let's bus to take me and my husband to the movies last Saturday and they couldn't accommodate the ride. And I'm like, at least I'm fortunate enough to have a car and I was able to go. But what if I needed my prescription or something and I didn't drive? It's a serious issue. People can't get to their medicines or their core services. So I did have, my 3 minutes has probably started here. People walking, biking, and rolling in rural areas face unique dangers since rural roads are less likely to be designed for these uses in mind. The roads often lack sidewalks, which this other young lady just said, bike lanes, shoulders, curbs, ramps, and safe options to cross the street, which increases risk of traffic crashes. While true for everyone, it is especially true for the elderly and the young and those with disabilities. However, even those traveling by car in rural areas face increased risk of traffic death compared to our urban counterparts. While only 19% of the US population lives in rural areas, they account for 49% of all the deaths, traffic deaths. According to a study by the Governor's Highway Safety Association, the risk of dying in a car crash, whether inside the vehicle or outside, was 62% higher on rural roads compared to the urban roads of trips the same length. Livingston County has a lot of rural roads. Nationally, pedestrian and bicycle fatalities have been increasing in recent years. In 2020, 67% of pedestrians killed by vehicles occurred on roadways without sidewalks. Studies have shown that even widening shoulders along roads can reduce pedestrian crashes up to 70%, with sidewalks providing up to an 88% reduction. Might I add, these statistics are just for traffic deaths and do not include injuries, which are often traumatic and life-changing. Better designed roads and non-motorized infrastructure and a reliable bus system can protect and improve the quality of life for our residents in Livingston County. I apologize. I would like to know what steps, if any, have you taken to make the complete streets in that 2018 master plan happen? It's been 5 years. Have you talked about funding, decisions on what roads to start first and why not, if you have? As the commissioners of Livingston County, you are in a position to make tangible improvements to the safety for all Livingston County residents by getting that 2018 master plan complete and implemented. I ask you to ponder James 2:14 and remember, faith without works is dead.
Thank you very much.
Mary Ann Lampkin, Hamburg, followed by Casey Janis.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here mainly to support my son and his appeal of the FOIA requests. And I would like to make a personal note about the reason for why Casey has made the same request that I made. Eva, I have been involved in government for about 40 some years. And there hasn't been one moment that I've ever felt that government has ever really been on the side of the people. When FOIA was adopted in 1976, it became almost a free-for-all of all government units to find ways around FOIA to keep the people ignorant, to find ways to prevent them from getting documents that they believed were important for their understanding of the issue. And when I came into government, I realized that it wasn't until FOIA that people really began to understand how corrupt government really is. And corruption began to show its ugly face whenever the public decided that they weren't in favor of something and they wanted to get the information that the government had. And in order to squelch that need to know, FOIA became almost a tool, a weapon. And until 2014, when she was the Attorney General, Governor Granholm, decided that she'd had enough of it. And she made it clear that FOIA was for the people, not for the government entity to cover up or to protect or conceal or deceive. It was for our rights as participants in the government. She made sure that we had an amendment that addressed the kind of things that I had to confront here a couple of weeks ago and what my son is going to be confronting. I can tell you after reading his presentation that the biggest problem facing people who use FOIA is the fact that the people who are responsible for implementing it don't know what they're doing. And that really gets me to my final point here. As a board, you didn't know what you were doing either the week that I was here. And I'm sad because now I walk away knowing that 7 members of this board violated their oath of office.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, the last card from the boardroom is Casey Janis from Hamburg.
Thank you.
I want to start off by saying that last time I was in here with my mom supporting her and her FOIA requests, I was pretty disgusted as to actually what I saw in here. I saw only 2 people, Dave Domas and Nick Fiani, were the only ones that actually followed the law and chose to support what Mary Ann Lampkin, my mom, was looking to do in order to get her FOIA request fulfilled. The other 7 board members chose to cover the rear end of Mr. Reeder. Mr. Reeder not only committed fraud and perjury in a request for a special prosecutor with the AG, but he is now using the manipulation of FOIA laws to prevent us from getting documents. And the one particular document that I want, I really want a copy of this. Because David Reeder alleges that there was a weapon at the scene of this particular incident. I have a video on my cell phone of the entire incident. There was no weapon. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's also talk about the fact that all 3 cops that were there at the scene
None of them in their witness statements and statements of fact mentioned anything about a weapon, nor were any of their testimony on the stand talking about any type of a weapon. So there was no weapon, okay? So my personal belief is that the 7 people that chose to do nothing and cover Mr. Reeder's butt probably have a personal relationship to Mr. Reeder. And I actually think that the best way to go forward, well, at least in my mom's case, because you guys are covering for Reeder in her case, I hope that she actually moves forward, go into the public integrity unit there at the AG, and that there's a full-on investigation into those board members. It's disgusting that only 2 people had any type of respect or dignity for the law. It makes me sick. This is our government. My family has been treated worse than Donald Trump. He only had to deal with 6.5 years of corruption from the Biden group. We've had over 20 years. I know some of you, I mean, I can look at some of your faces. You don't really give a damn. So, you know, I think it's really fruitless. But honestly, you know, my mom can sit there and say, well, you didn't really know what you're doing. Well, I think differently. I'm more of a cynic. I'm pretty upset. I can't believe that this continues to go on in this county. But then again, with people supporting filthy, rotten people like Carolyn Henry and David Reeder and their cover-ups here of abuse, nothing really shocks me. And I don't think anything's really going to get done unless there's a thorough investigation by the AG.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, sir. Anybody else?
I have no further cards.
Nobody on Zoom?
I do not have any on Zoom, Commissioner.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the FOIA appeal of Mr. Casey Janis. Mr. Janis will be allowed 5 minutes to speak at the table up here about his appeal and what he's and why he is asking for it. Mr. Janis.
All right. Well, as far as the video, if anybody wants to actually watch the incident, I do have it on my phone. So I wanted to read this. This is directly off the Justice Department website. 18 USC subsection 1001 requires that the false statement, concealment, cover up to be knowingly and willfully done, which means that the statement must have been made with the intent to deceive, designed to induce belief, and falsity to mislead, but does not require the intent to defraud, that is to deprive someone of something by means of deceit. So most lawyers that really want to know what's probably coming should really take a good look at that. All right. So I put forth this FOIA request, which mirrors my mom's. And I did that for a reason, because I knew that something was going to happen at the last meeting, which actually did happen. We got 2 people that chose to follow the law and 7 that didn't. I wanted to actually basically, for all intents and purposes, lay a little bit of a trap. I wanted to make sure that the people here really truly did make a mistake. And, you know, it wasn't, you know, an intentional act, but I don't think it's a mistake on this board's part. So this appeal form here, there's a couple of things I want to address, one of which my mom brought up about Jennifer Granholm and the FOIA laws. She was real specific in how FOIA was supposed to work, as was Bill Schuette. So you have 1 Democrat, 1 Republican that were real clear about FOIA laws. All right. It's really cut and dry, and you have a copy submitted to you from when my mom had her case before you. We also have the fact that I put my FOIA through, and it was before my mom's was going to time out. Okay, so I don't understand how they can charge me or charge me more for my FOIA request when all the documents were ready for my mom, but my mom merely allowed hers to time out. So I don't know how they can charge me the same fee for so-called labor. I don't know how that works. I mean, the other thing I was looking through in these FOIA packets here is they were talking about excessive fees that they're supposed to be 15 cents a page. So I don't know how they get over $400. That's interesting. And Mr. Warden was up here lying and talking about, oh my God, there's all this labor intensive work I've had to do. You know, when all you had to do is click a mouse over here and click and hit print. Everything's on file, everything's right out in front for them. And obviously everything was ready for my mother. So where do they get off charging me the same labor? Okay, so they want to talk about labor intensive. I just got done putting a transmission in my hot rod truck. You want to talk about labor intensive? That's labor intensive. So clicking a mouse or going over to a copy machine, put paper in there or changing the ink cartridge, that's not labor intensive. That's a lie. It's a scam. And it's all to prevent us from having crucial documentation that we need for my mom's criminal case, which was bogus because of Mr. Reeder and his perjury and his fraud. But like I said, there's one picture that I want in that FOIA that's of that weapon. And that's important because there is no weapon and it catches Mr. Reeder in his fraud. And it makes it a lot easier for us to have him criminally prosecuted for what he did. So when it comes back and they issue us a denial saying that this weapon doesn't exist, well, bye-bye, Mr. Reeder. And just so you know, fraud and perjury, that's 15 years in prison. That's not jail. That's prison. That's when you're in the sodomites. You know, I mean, these people just don't seem to understand. They're at the prosecutor's office. You're going to get caught playing games, and if they're willing to play games with FOIA and get caught doing something this disgusting and sneaky and trying to hold back crucial information for our case, what else are they willing to do? You know, I mean, this is just FOIA. I mean, obviously everybody knows what happened with Pam Moss. And I think the Attorney General's office, as much as I can't stand her politics, she actually went after Democrats and Republicans that were doing criminal activity. So, and with her knowledge of knowing what happened here in Livingston County in that prosecutor's office, well, Pam Moss was just one employee. We actually have the head of the snake. So, there's that. And then there was no itemized list of labor that was supposed to be afforded to
Give
me.
me 30 seconds to close it, Mr. Casey, if you would, please.
Okay. There's no itemized list explaining what these fees were and how they arrived at how much labor this was supposed to be. Price a page, obviously, I said it's supposed to be 15 cents a page. You know, I'll pay double that just to give me my documents. I'm not unreasonable. Well, you know what? I'm just going to leave it right here because I do have a few other things I may address later or at another time. So I appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to listen. I'm hoping this time around that those other people that chose not to follow the law, I hope will this time, because I'm not going to take this lying down, and it's not fair to me that I even have to come in here and try to argue this point. Just give me my documents, please. You know, it's not unreasonable.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, are we going to have a time to ask questions?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
then I'll.
The next
I'll hold
item
my
on the
questions till
agenda is a response to the appellate position by our county representatives. Attorney Brandon, is it Sicati?
CCID, sir.
Was it? That's pretty close.
It's very close, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon CCID. I'm an assistant prosecutor for our county, and I did prepare the response letter and cost estimate for Mr. Janice's FOIA requests. I did prepare them myself, and I take full responsibility for them. I do want to state, though, that I was assisted by and worked in conjunction with Mr. Warden, who was here, at a previous hearing and has many years of experience responding to FOIA requests. I also want to state that I did prepare the cost estimate using the county form for FOIA responses. To be sure that I was preparing the estimate in accordance with county policy. I'd also like to state that I understand that as far as labor costs, I know that I'm to use the hourly rate of the lowest paid employee. He was able to perform the labor, and that labor is estimated in 15-minute increments, and I have to round down any time over the 15-minute increments. So with that said, I'd like to go through the items one section at a time. And again, I'm just going right through the cost itemization form that I prepared for in response to Mr. Janus's requests. So section one is labor cost to locate. This is by far the most complicated one, so I will explain it. And the majority of it stems from the fourth set of requests, paragraph 1, which is for any and all email, text, phone, fax, or other electronic communications between Hamburg Township Police Department employees and employees of Livingston County Prosecutor's Office. We have 13 attorneys and 13 administrative staff in our office. Most or all of our staff have already checked for any communications that they had with. Oh, and I should say also that was for the time period of November 11th, 2022 through November 21st. It says 2023. I assume that was a typo and it's supposed to be 2022. So an 11-day period. Mr. Warden asked a number of our employees how long that took for them to check for those communications. And consistent answer was about 15 minutes. So 15 minutes times 13 attorneys is 195 minutes. Hence the 195 minutes for attorneys, and another 195 minutes because the same number of administrative employees. That leaves another 90 minutes, which I billed at the administrative employee rate, which frankly was just the time that it took to read through several pages of requests. And furthermore, some of the requests, frankly, were difficult to read and to make sense of. There was an abundance of all caps, bold, brackets, underline, and the requests are kind of strewn throughout with allegations that are made rather than actual requests. And there's a lot of overlap as well. So it took a significant amount of time to kind of parse through what actually was being requested through several pages of this. I probably took close to 2 hours to read through and to identify what documents might actually satisfy these requests. So I had another 90 minutes for that as a conservative estimate of what would be fair in this case. And again, that was billed at the administrative rate. So that's the basis for the 285. So the total cost would be 195 minutes for attorneys, 285 for administrative staff, multiplying those by their respective rates and then adding the totals was $348.83 for the total cost to locate requested documents.
Would you repeat those numbers, please? So we can.
The total cost would be $348.83. Moving on to section 2, this is the cost for copying and duplication. Now, the documents would be electronically duplicated and downloaded onto electronic media such as a flash drive. There are several documents that would be required to completely fulfill the request. They would, some of them are rather lengthy. There's a police report in particular, which is several dozen pages. I figured that there would probably be some significant download time that would be required. But the most intensive part of the labor process for this would, I think, again, be the emails. There's no single computer that has everybody's emails. I'm not sure, frankly, what would be the most efficient way to compile them all into one place. Perhaps either everybody forwards the relevant emails to one computer and then download from there, or perhaps print them off and then scan them to a single computer. I figured that it would take at least a half hour to do that, hence the 30 minutes, which is again billed at the administrative rate.
Counselor, could you wrap that up quickly for us, please? And then we're going to be back with you and the appellant in a question and answer format here as soon as you're finished.
Yes, just one more minute. After that, section 3A, redaction, essentially, again, several documents, several pages. I thought that 45 minutes for that would be a conservative estimate. Everything would have to be read closely in order to do that. Section 3B, not relevant. Section 4, $10 for one flash drive to download the documents onto. Section 5, mailing cost, $2.52 as the cost for post-delivery confirmation. And then section 6 adds up all of the previous totals to $422.82. And then moving on to section 10, 50% good faith deposit that would be required would be half of that total, which I just read, which would be $211.41. So that was what our office required up front from Mr. Janis in order to respond to his request. It was done again in accordance with county policy. It is an estimate. Obviously, that would be reduced accordingly if it turned out that the costs ended up being less than were anticipated. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. You might just stay there.
Yes.
Ms. Henry, will you be coming back up?
I won't unless you guys
Okay.
need me
No,
to
no.
answer any questions.
The next item on this agenda is questions to the appellate and to the county representative. So, Commissioner, do you have a question?
Well, I have some general question. Are both going to be here then?
They're both.
Perhaps counselor might want to sit in the front row and then you may want to invite Mr. Janis to the table.
I think they can both sit at the same table. Are you comfortable with that, Counselor?
Certainly.
I'm fine with that.
There you go.
We have two mics.
I think we only have one.
Oh, he's only got one mic.
We're in the middle.
Okay, there was a question as
Give him the mic.
there's a question as to why were there 13 people reviewing emails when there's only supposed to be one?
Wait, what was the, did somebody ask a question?
Commissioner?
Yeah, I
Okay.
have some questions and first of all, in the MCL 15.24, paragraph 4, paragraph 3, or I don't know exactly how that. It says something, a fee shall not be charged for costs of search, examination, review, deletion, separation of exemption or non-exempt, but it says unless failure to charge a fee would result in unreasonably high cost to the public body because of the nature of the request. My first question is, because it seems like that was one of the things that you keyed upon. And so are you saying that you agree with the first one, that there should be no fee for search, examination, review, and you set aside the second one, which says you don't believe this is unreasonably high cost for the public body? Could you address that?
Well, yeah, I can really address that. The fact is that, yeah, there are fees to be, taken in, obviously, if there's above and beyond what you would normally do. You go to your computer, you click with your mouse, you print. It's real simple. There's no need for 13 people to get involved. And it has to be based off of, if there is going to be labor costs, it has to be based off the lowest wage earner in that department, period. I mean, it could be the janitor. Okay, so it has to be based off of that.
So you're not denying that a fee should be charged and an hourly fee should be charged.
No, what I'm saying is by page. If you look at Granholm's opinion and Bill Schuete's opinion, it's based on page. Now, obviously, when Granholm did hers, it was, I think it was 10 cents. And when Bill Schuete, I think, did his, it was like 15 cents. But the fact is they.
But isn't that the copy cost?
Yeah, that's
the copy cost. It's not the search and.
Yeah, but the thing is that as an employee by the state, they get paid no matter what they do. So why am I paying basically a double rate? They get paid for the normal work, and plus they're going to get paid for doing FOIA. No, they have one job to do. And now, if that job happens to be doing FOIA also, that's not my problem. I shouldn't have to pay it. The county actually shouldn't have to pay a double cost, one for their one for their salary, and then I'm supposed to pay for it also. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so you don't think that, let's say if they had, 10 of these FOIAs to do a week, because the fee was so low, that would encourage unreasonably high costs, because we have to fund their normal job of being a prosecutor. And then this is, you could argue that this is an added job to.
But it's still their job.
Well, yes, it is their job, but the question is, how much extra cost? The question is, does it add unreasonably high cost? That's the question that I want.
Over $400. I mean, we're talking about maybe 50 pages. Okay, so there's a $10 USB card. Okay, whoop-de-doo, I'll pay the $10. $400? I mean, I might as well bend over and let's
Mr. Janice, could I ask council to give us a quick response to those numbers?
I'm sorry, to the emails specifically, is that?
Well, to the issue of, are we double billing somebody? Essentially, that's, I think, what he's talking about.
No.
Guy's already getting paid to show up, and now.
No, I don't believe so, because we don't have anybody in our office that's specifically assigned to FOIA's requests, and of course, we have to respond to them by law, but the employees from our office who have to do so have to set aside their other duties that they're assigned to for the amount of time that it takes in order to do those responses. And furthermore, as I said before, everybody in our office had to check their emails pursuant to one of the specific FOIA requests. Essentially, our whole office would have to be put on pause for at least 15 minutes just in order to comply with that one request. So I think that it is an otherwise unreasonably high cost to incur if we were unable to bill Mr. Janice for that labor.
Thank you.
Commissioner,
do you have another question?
Yeah, I have a question for the prosecutor. The new, every time you got a FOIA request, you treat it as a new FOIA request? Because this mirrors the previous FOIA request, but you've got, it looks to me like you got four, it was intended to be four separate FOIA requests. Does each separate FOIA request, because some of this is double work, do you treat it as a brand new one and you go through the whole process again and lay aside the other evidence or whatever that you had before?
Yeah, so these four FOIA, we received it in four parts. It was I believe that it was perhaps intended to be one request and that we received it in 4 parts because as Mr. Janis said, it mirrored the 4 that his mother had sent in previously. Now, I thought that it should be treated as one in order to avoid duplication and unnecessarily multiplication of labor costs because there was significant overlap between the 4. Now, I think that was a partial answer, and I just want to make sure I understood. You were also asking whether
My question is, did you do another complete search as you had done for the first? Because basically, did you,
I didn't make any changes.
has the first FOIA request from your mother been granted? Has any,
Yours expired.
no, but has any of the information been given to you?
No. And
Okay, so no information has been forwarded to you from your mother's FOIA request?
no, and we were supposed to get an itemized list. We never got that from Mr. Warden. I never got that from him. And I've been completely been left in the dark other than to just show up here for the appeal.
So as far as you're concerned, this is the first one. Now, there's an initial charge to go forward, $200 or something like that. Did I hear it correctly? Has that initial amount been met?
it is not, Your Honor.
Okay, okay. I think that's all the questions I have for right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner that wishes to add a comment or have a question? Down there? All right, Jay?
Ciciati, sir. I said, Your Honor, as you can tell, I'm used to being in court.
So wording that was contained within the FOIA.
Commissioner Gross, we can hardly hear you. Is your mic on?
The FOIA request, whether it was 1 or 4 components, was there language contained in there that specifically required everybody in the office to check their emails?
Yes, I believe it did, and I can read the relevant part.
That's okay. I take your word. I just wanted to clarify that. So if you went into a computer and found a summary of a search that would, and you turned it over to Mr. Janis, you would not be complying with what the law requires in terms of the type of search you need to do. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know how it would be possible to do that. Each employee has their own email and we don't have access to each other's emails for security reasons. So each person would have to search their own email in order to do that.
So there, in order to comply with the request, you were absolutely required to search the computer emails of 26 people.
I can think of no other way to do it.
And in the pricing that system that you followed, that, you know, I followed what your explanation here, that's dictated by departmental procedures or county procedures? What's the methodology that you followed in order to do this?
So again, I used the county form for FOIA cost estimation, and the hourly rates were based on the lowest paid attorneys and the lowest paid administrative staff.
And so I'm assuming you have a cover page that identifies what I'm seeing in here, the detail of the $422.
Come again, sir?
Is there a cover page on some document that you sent to Mr. Janis that showed the component pieces of the $422?
Yes, it is this, the cost itemization form that I used to calculate the cost estimate. That was.
So all
was
of the
included.
costs that you identified, the 348.83, 1567 or what it was, the $10, the $2, all of that was identified and was provided to Mr. Janis.
Correct.
I didn't get a copy of that. I was left in the dark. This is the first I've heard of this.
That was,
They were supposed to provide me with a copy.
Would you let him
Sir,
answer,
I need you to
please?
speak into the microphone, please.
this was provided as well as my response letter was provided to administrative staff who uploaded it to, in response to Mr. Janice's request. So I did not personally provide that or upload that to him, but I can say that it was provided to our staff as part of their response.
And would the response be forwarded to him by certified mail or anything of that sort?
I don't know personally. But I believe it would either be by certified mail or electronically via the website for FOIA requests. It would be my, or I'm sorry, by email. I believe email response is one of the ways that it could be received, but I'm not entirely certain.
Commissioner Smith?
I'm sorry, you done, sir?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this went out with your FOIA letter via either email or first-class mail or some way. And so you're denying you received this?
This is the first time I've seen this right here.
So just a quick question then. You're appealing the cost. How did you know the cost if you did not receive the estimate?
It's exactly the same.
Sir, can I get you to speak into the microphone,
It's
please?
exactly, the cost was exactly the same. I believe my mom got something in one of her emails or whatever, because I had to use her email for something. And that's the only thing that they said. Excuse me, let me take that back. I think it was up like $10 higher than it was. But she got some weird bogus number saying it's over 400 something dollars, add $10 to it. And I'm supposed to pay that, but there was no itemization of any kind of labor, nothing, zero. So you got no itemization, how do you follow this? And as far as his communication with other people in his office, if you got three.
I didn't ask that question, sir.
Okay, well, I'd like to answer or ask the question to him.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for anybody in the room that is familiar with FOIA. Is there a, so I have FOIA things from the state of Michigan. I have FOIA things from Oakland County. And so I fill out to do electronically. I have a FOIA account. And so, you know, all of the correspondence that well, in this case, Oakland County has sent to me is through this online FOIA system. And then when I have a question, I type it in and so it's all in one document. Clerk Hunley, do you know if that is the case here?
Livingston County uses a computerized FOIA system called GovQA. Joe Bridgman has been monitoring that closely. I'm going to ask Joe to, I believe, yes, these documents have been provided electronically to Casey Janice. So can you confirm that?
As far as I know, based on this, as far as I know, based on the system, it shows who accessed and so forth. As far as I know, that the documents is then put to the customer. So it's an internal document, and then we change it to, so the customer then can view the document that is in the login. So
It's the same,
yes,
same type
same
of
principle.
system.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Janice, you had mentioned in your initial presentation that there is one document that you really want to get your hands on. Have you considered FOIAing that document as a separate request so it greatly reduces your cost?
Yeah, I have, but I'm doing this for a reason, as I expressed earlier. I'm doing this for an exact reason. Mr. Reader would play.
Sir, we can hardly hear you. I do need
I
you to
knew
speak. into the
Mr. Reader would play FOIA games like he's done in past times, and it was a mere trap to make him fall right in it, and he did. So knowing his actions or his past actions. I mean, it creates a pattern, so it's much easier for us to have somebody investigate the kind of person that he is and the extent that he'll go. And the malicious prosecution of my mom is enough. So you want to play FOIA games or whatever to hide what you're doing? Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I decided to mirror my FOIA request the same as my mom's.
So I will make this offer publicly. If there's a document that you want, I'll pay for it.
I'll pay for the single document, but I want all of those documents for Philip. I think that's fair and at a reasonable cost. I mean, I'm not an unreasonable person, you know, I mean, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I really do. But, you know, it's up to the prosecutor's office to comply with the law, and the law is not on their side. Every packet that you've got received from.
I'm good.
from the
Can
last
I,
time.
yeah, you answered my question, and this is a question for the assistant prosecutor. The,
Mr. Chair, I just ask that we keep the discussion to the matter at hand, not to what we want to receive from this. We have a discussion about this particular matter, and other discussions are not helpful. And thank you, Commissioner Smith, for you know, keeping the discussion to.
We don't want to leave the room this evening without any questions being answered. So Commissioner Nakagiri, please continue.
with regards to Mr. Prosecutor, searching the documents that were requested, could an electronic search have been performed where you, like in, say, one person's email file, that they just search on keywords? Would that have worked?
So the best way I could think to do it would be to do a search of all emails to a particular, to or from a particular Hamburg Police Department employee, go to the relevant time frame and see if there are any within that time frame that was requested, and repeat it for each Hamburg Township employee or Hamburg Township Police Department employee. So it would be, I don't know off the top of my head how many employees they have. I'd guess it's probably in the realm of a dozen to 15. So there'd have to be a separate search for each of them.
Okay, all right. So the request was for communications between the prosecutor's office and any Hamburg Township employee, is that correct?
Yes, the way I understood it, any prosecutor's office employee and any Hamburg Township Police Department employee.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, Commissioner.
So I guess I didn't know the answer. So if a FOIA request is made twice and the information is gathered, would it be charged to two different individuals at the same value?
Are you asking?
I'm just asking in general. If a FOIA request comes in for a certain topic and it's cost estimated out, would and that information was provided and it was asked for again, would that information be provided again at an additional, at the same cost or no cost, or how does that work?
So each request would be handled separately. So the second one would be completely independent of the first, but depending on what materials we already had prepared from the first one, that may influence the cost for the second one. But it's hard to go beyond just that kind of generalization.
Okay. And then when a FOIA cost estimates are put out there, is that a maximum price of what the FOIA expense may be? Is there ever a time that you offer an estimate for a FOIA request, and then once a request is filled, the cost is reduced because perhaps there wasn't as much work involved?
Has that ever happened? Not in my
I guess,
personal
does it-
experience, but it's certainly
Does it
possible,
commonly
yes.
happen, I guess, is it something that does happen?
I don't know I don't know if I could say that it commonly happens. Frankly, I've not done very many FOIA requests,
Okay,
at least not ones that we've charged for.
was your mother's request ever filled?
Nope.
Did they prepare the estimate for it
I believe they did.
but it was never paid for?
That's correct. It was
So-
abandoned is what they call it.
So until the FOIA request is actually paid for, they haven't done the work yet. It's just simply an estimate at this point?
Pretty much. The fact is that I filed mine before hers became abandoned. So they had all of her information ready and
Right.
available.
Well, my question is that the FOIA request has never been paid for. So the work hasn't ever been completed. So to argue that they already have procured this information, and why are you paying for it twice hasn't actually happened, because the first request that you're speaking of was denied a reduction in the cost, so it was never paid for.
That's
So we're
correct.
still talking about the same FOIA request that's still never been paid for, that still hasn't been obtained.
Yeah, so why am I eating the cost then for something that's already been prepared?
It hasn't been prepared is what I'm understanding. It's like-
Everything was ready and along with the list that was sent to my mother. She just abandoned it. And the fact is, I decided to send mine in before it became abandoned. But I'm not going to get charged the same thing that they're trying to pull on her.
Well, it's still, I mean, it still seeks it to be abandoned again.
I told you before, I'm actually going to the public integrity unit as far as David Reeder goes, because this is his
We
game
understand,
that he wants to play here. So that's the only reason why we're doing this FOIA game right now.
well, we understand that, but you're here for a FOIA appeal based on
That's correct. I'm gonna. have
based
it-
on costs that they're estimating for the value of this FOIA,
Right.
not here to.
And I did
Try the
disagree
reason
with their
for you
cost
getting the
assessments. I disagree with their cost assessments. I shouldn't be getting charged nearly as much as my mother was gonna get charged. And that's the point. Everything was already done, pretty much everything was already done. So what do you?
I
10,
arguably
10,
might
15
agree with
bucks
you
more?
that you might pay less
Right,
if it
a
ever
lot
got paid
less.
for in the first place, but it didn't. So it's still the same cost. I don't.
No, it's not the same cost.
I'm all
If
set,
everything was
Mr.
already
Chair.
done,
Thank
why
you.
am I paying
Thank you,
more?
Commissioner. Are there any other commissioners that have any questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Janice, I want you to understand my point of view and where I'll be coming from this evening when we vote. Earlier in your statement, you expressed that you were trying to set a trap and that you are, let's see here, not unreasonable, will pay for double for the documents. Because this window of this proceeding is very narrow, it strictly pertains to the appeal of the FOIA costs and whether they're reasonable or unreasonable.
Right.
And in that remark, you admitted that they are reasonable in your opinion. And if,
No, I'm not.
and they very well may be actually on the low end.
No.
So I would like you to just know where I'll be voting tonight and why.
Okay, that's fine.
Is there anyone else? We'll close that part of the process. There are no other questions. Thank you, Counselor, and thank you, Mr. Janice. The action taken by this board is the last item on the agenda, on this agenda.
Motion to uphold the fee, Fiani.
There's a motion to uphold the fee. Is there any support? There is support.
Can we add, would you add your motion and permit the, excuse me, and permit the chair to respond within 10 days?
Motion to uphold the fee and permit the chair to respond within 10 days.
Correct. Thank you. So are there any comments or questions? Being none, all those in favor of this,
Talk, or we just ready to go on?
Yes.
pardon me?
He did ask for discussion. Yes.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying, I'm sorry, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Fiani, excuse me, Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Abstain for the same reasons as before.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
and Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now move on with the rest of this evening's agenda.
Motion to approve the minutes dated July 17th, 2023.
Support, Gross. Been moved and supported. All those in favor, are there any questions or comments about the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? There are no tabled items from previous meetings, so we'll move on then to reports. Do any of the commissioners have a report to give us this evening?
Chairman.
I'm sorry. Mr. Gross.
I am happy to report that there was an article in our local newspaper the other day which indicated that our sheriff, Michael Murphy, has been honored by the veterans organizations, not only for service to the county, but for support and service to various veteran activities in the county. And I think it's a recognition well earned. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Nakagiri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just report to my colleagues that I'm moving forward on the investigation with respect to whether or not we can set up a trust fund that, for the extra payments that we would normally have given MERS. So I've reached out to our county council. I've reached out to other commissioners who attended this meeting where we had a retirement trust fund consultant part of it. So we will be ready for a better discussion as the resolution said by the time for the next finance meeting. So I just wanted to let you know that things are going along according to plan. So
thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? You want to go first? Go ahead. Vice Chair.
I'll go first. Fowlerville Fair was this last week. I think it was quite successful. They have 3 auctions, one Friday night, big animals. I don't know if anybody went. I see a nod over there that maybe people with the big bucks go to that one. And then they have a still auction, and a plate of cookies, probably a dozen, went for like $500 for that. So it was, and then the small animal auction I got involved in and got a rabbit and a turkey. So anyways, it was well attended, and Frank and I had a little time together there. So and went to the rodeo on Friday night. I just wanted to share something publicly. As they were starting, they said the pledge of the flag. They sang the national anthem, and they says, "We believe in the Constitution." And one of the parts of the Constitution is exercise of religion. And it says, because of that, we're going to exercise our freedom of religion and say a prayer. So that was in my mind, that was very impressive. And I'm glad that there are people, and we've joined them, that think that prayer is an okay thing to do in public. So
yes. Thank you. Any other? Yes, sir. Commissioner Gross.
As a follow-on to Commissioner Helserman's report on the Fowlerville Fair, I had the occasions to meet with some friends over the weekend, and the subject of the Fowlerville Fair came up. And somebody told me that some years ago, a friend of his, went and decided to bid on the small animal auction. And he made a mistake in that he thought if he bid $25, he would get the animal. And he didn't realize that it would be $25 per pound. And the animal was over 6 pounds. So when he got his bill, he was flabbergasted. So I guess the word to the wise is make sure you know what you're bidding on. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner.
I can report that I found an article from 2013. Ottawa County had a $48 million unfunded liability in 2013. The way they handled it was to issue bonds. So I forwarded that to Wes, so you have that in his thinking cap when this gets discussed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Wes, I heard a groan down there. Was that someone who said yes? No. Oh. Last week I was part of the job of the responsibility of the chair is to sign correspondence on behalf of the board. And at the same time, we were reviewing the approval of our involvement in AAA organization here serving the senior citizens and other organizations in the county. We've been doing that for years. We have always supported the organization. They do good. They do good for people who can't sometimes do that for themselves. And when I read through what we were being asked to sign, I realized that part of their agenda was to include teaching their people things about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is, in my judgment, I'm going out on a limb here, but I think those are issues that this board and many of the people that we represent are in opposition to. And so I questioned our Mr. Byrd, our administrator, and I said, are we sure that this is something we want to agree to? And so after some conversation and input from Commissioner Nakagiri, and I believe you had assistance from somebody down at this end.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't very well say no to this document, to this approval, because it would eliminate the funding for this very worthy cause. But at the same time, we didn't have to agree to some of their conditions. And so Commissioner Nakagiri penned a very thoughtful and dynamic letter stating our position that we are objecting to the use of the terms diversity, equity, and inclusion, suggesting that we may be promoting that. Well, I don't believe this board does. And so it was very artfully dealt with by two of our commissioners. And then I signed it, and I was proud to sign it. So the reason I'm even making an issue out of this is because I think it's the kind of correspondence that all of our other 83 counties in the state should know, that somebody takes a position on this. And so I would request, without any objection, I hope that that this board will allow us to forward copies of this letter to all of the other 83 counties in the state of Michigan. So without any objection, I will accept what I'm talking about, Commissioner.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. I guess I'd like to be able to read the letter before I agree to send it out.
Did you not get a copy of that?
I did not.
Okay. Anybody else know what I'm talking about?
This was, the letter was given out, and I think we probably should take maybe more time to think about it and put it on a future agenda, but it was basically the same letter that came when we were considering AAA 1B. So it was given, it was at everybody's desk at that point, but I do agree with Commissioner Gross that maybe we should all kind of know more specifically before we agree to it, so. So,
Well,
so I would think it could be on the next board agenda.
Yeah, I saw to it that everyone's box had one of these letters last week, so all of which, not everything gets read, I guess. But if that's the case, I'm fine with that. And we can deal with it at the next available opportunity. But I would hope that everyone has a chance to read that letter and see if it in fact does reflect the feelings of each and every member of this board. There are a number of things, this and CRT, that are creeping into the system, into our education system. And it's frightening to think that the nation that we went to war with to save virtually the entire world from calamity back in the 30s and 40s, could be at this point suggesting that all of a sudden the country that's our country doesn't recognize that this is not what we were made for and what we're made of. So with that, unless you've got any questions, you've read it, you wrote it.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm happy, but I don't want to force it upon other people either. So
well, happy is good, but that's not quite to the point where you're gonna.
So whatever, whatever
All right.
the majority.
Commissioner
wants to do.
Nakagiri?
Yeah, point of information. While I would be honored to take credit for the letter, it was my colleague, Commissioner Helserman, who drafted it, and I read it and added a few items, a few edits. So anyway, I just wanted to make that point. I don't want to take credit when it's not due.
That's very noble of you, but I'm sure you had something to do with it. And with that, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda for this evening. I'll turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Jay.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
We're on agenda item number 12, resolutions for consideration. 12A reads 2023-07-126. It's a resolution authorizing submission of the fiscal year 2024 Child Care Fund budget to the state of Michigan. It's for juvenile court. May I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Support Deaton.
Moved by Commissioner Fiani, support by Commissioner Deaton. Ms. Shaw, I believe, is on Zoom.
Commissioner Nakagiri would also make an amendment to the resolution.
Yes. You want to proceed?
Yeah.
The chair recognizes Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution, adding two additional, be it further resolved. You have a copy of that, the commissioners do, and as so does the clerk, but I'll read it for the record. It says, so to add it onto the end of the resolution, be it further resolved that the juvenile and probate court administrator will notify the Board of Commissioners if the state legislature changes the funding structure and will present to the Board of Commissioners any related budgetary revisions. Be it further resolved that the chairman, well, actually that's, there's only one extra, be it further resolved, yes. So sorry for the confusion, so.
Second, Fiani.
We have an amendment to the motion in writing, and we have a second by Commissioner Fiani. Discussion. Questions, observations? Hearing none, I'll close that. Madam Clerk, does the amendment need the roll call or just the original?
That can be voice.
Very good. We'll go with a voice vote on the amendment. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Silence. So we have a 9-0 unanimous amendment. Circling back to now amended motion, are there any questions or comments to be directed to the presenter from juvenile court. I'm hearing crickets, so everyone is satisfied with the questions to juvenile court. There are none. We'll move into the roll call vote. You may have the floor.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
and Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're on to,
Thank you.
you're welcome, Debbie. We're on to agenda item number 12B, which would be on page 2, top of the page. It's 2023-07-127. It's a resolution authorizing the juvenile court to accept the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Child and Parent Legal Representation Grant for fiscal year 2024. Can I get a motion?
So move. Gross.
Support Deaton.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Gross, supported by Commissioner Deaton. So we will thus proceed. Does anyone need questions answered? We were all at FAM on the same topic. Questions, comments, analysis, critique. Hearing none, we'll close that portion and move to the roll call vote on the resolution.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and Commissioner Fiani.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're at item number 12C. It's number 2023-07-128. It's a resolution to adopt the updated Livingston County Emergency Action Plan brought to us by Emergency Management. We will listen to the presentation at FAM. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Support Smith.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Fiani, support by Commissioner Smith. Any questions, analysis, critique, or otherwise observations that could be answered by the director who's on Zoom? Crickets again. You're off the hook. I close that portion. We move to a voice vote. All those in favor of this resolution kindly say aye.
Aye.
It's 9-0. It's unanimous and it's passed. We're on to 12D. It is numbered 2023-07-129. It's a resolution approving the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 hazardous materials emergency preparedness grant program award agreement brought to us by Emergency Management. Can I get a motion?
So move. Sample.
Support Deaton.
Moved by Commissioner Sample, support by Commissioner Deaton. Are there any further questions? We all were at FAM. Analysis, critique, objections. Hearing and seeing none, I'll close that portion and we'll move to a voice vote. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
At 9-0, it passes. We're on to 12E. It's number 2023-07-130. It's a resolution authorizing the acceptance and signing of the fiscal year 2024 Emergency Management Performance Grant brought to us again by Emergency Management. May I have a motion?
Move it. Support Helserman.
Moved by Commissioner Domas, support by Commissioner Helserman. Again, we had a presentation at FAM with all 9 of us present. Are there any further questions, analysis, observations, critique? Seeing none, I'll close that portion and move to a roll call vote kindly.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're on to 12F. It's number 2023-07-131. It's a resolution authorizing a second quarter budget amendment to the fiscal year 2023 budget. It's brought to us by Fiscal Services. Can I get a motion?
Motion Smith.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second sample.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Sample. Is there any, are there any questions, analysis, objections, critique? We were all at FAM. We had that opportunity there, but again, we have another opportunity. Hearing none, I'll close that portion and please roll call vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
and Commissioner Deaton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're on to 12G. It's number 2023-07-132. It's a resolution authorizing the Livingston County Board of Commissioners formal receipt, review, and annual filing of the Livingston County 2024 to 2029 Capital Improvement Plan as approved by the Livingston County Planning Commission. It's brought to us by the Planning Department. May I get a motion?
So move Helserman. Support Deaton.
Moved by Commissioner Helserman, support by Commissioner Deaton. Is there any commissioner that would like to pose questions, critique, or analysis to the resolution's author? Seeing none, I'll close that portion. No questions. We will have a voice vote kindly. All say aye if in favor.
Aye.
9-0, it passes unanimously. We're on to 12H. It's numbered 2023-07-133. It's a resolution authorizing the distribution of the American Rescue Act Plan funding to senior centers marketing program in Livingston County, brought to us by the Board of Commissioners. May I get a motion?
So move Gross.
Second sample.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gross, seconded by Commissioner Sample. I can inform the board that our attorneys would like a amended language to be inserted such that any agreements or contracts or amendment documents that the board chair may need to sign to implement the resolution should have a further be it resolved, granting the chair authority to sign such documents after review or preparation by civil counsel. Do you need me to reread it?
Yes, please.
Here is the be it further resolved clause, granting the chair authority to sign such documents after review
Okay.
or preparation by civil counsel.
So is that a motion to make that amendment?
I'm telling people to understand what's going on. That's for understanding. Can I get a motion to make that amendment, please?
I'll move. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Smith and support by Commissioner Nakagiri of the amended be it further resolved paragraph suggested by council.
Where will you want that put in that resolution, just as the final
A final.
clause? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
please. Any debate, any questions, any concerns, critique? We'll vote on the amendment first. I believe it can be a voice vote. All those in favor of this amendment relative to civil counsel, kindly say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's a 9-0 unanimous passage of the amended language, inserting the extra be it resolved. Any discussion, concern, questions about the main resolution, including the amended language?
Haven't we dealt with this before? This is the same one we've dealt with before. Was it the other not a final vote on it? I thought we already had a final vote on this.
I thought we did it at FAM and now we're doing it.
No, I
for-
mean, 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
This is just
No, this was.
the next step.
The marketing portion was left
Oh,
out.
I'm sorry. This is the marketing.
Yes,
This is the marketing.
it was left out.
Marketing was left out because they were still deciding on how they wanted to proceed. So we knocked out 412,000 to the senior centers to accommodate their requests. And then they also had $36,000 request for strictly marketing purposes. But they didn't have a specific strategy in place. And so they wanted to have more time to come back to us.
Any further questions, comments, discussion? Understanding that, all those are kindly direct your attention to our clerk who'll do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and Commissioner Fiani.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're on to 12, letter I. It's number 2023-07-134. It's a resolution authorizing several county government projects totaling $5 million to be charged against the $10 million revenue loss allocation of the county's American Rescue Plan Act funding, brought to us by administration. Again, our civil counsel would like an identical, be it further resolved, amended and attached to the end of this resolution also. So first, can I get a motion? Moved by Commissioner Domas to consider
Seconds.
and second by Commissioner Sample. Now I believe I need a motion and second for the amended language to put the civil counsel on the work, on the job.
Motion to amend the language with the same language allowing the chairman to make the modifications needed.
Understood. That's a motion. Can I get a second?
Support.
Support by Deaton. So the amendment for civil counsel addition is brought by Smith, second by Deaton. I believe we can do voice vote on that amendment. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 9-0, the amendment passes. Now we go back to now the amended resolution. Any additions, or not, excuse me, any comment, questions, critique, or analysis that anybody would like to
I
offer?
just have one question if I could.
Proceed, Commissioner
Okay,
Helserman.
some of these are up to, and I assume that if we don't spend the full 5 million, the money will be retained in ARPA. Is that the correct understanding of it? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any further?
Commissioner Gross.
I think this is a question for Administrator Byrd. It appears to me that the first 6 or 7 items fell into the category of external requests. And so I'm wondering, does this cover all acted upon external requests? Are we done with them?
No, this actually isn't related to external request. Everything that you see on this list is something that we do annually via resolution from the board. So these are falling under expenditure category 6.1, which is provision of government services. So the idea was to identify $5 million worth of things we do every year, use ARPA money, and then free up funds for other purposes. So this wasn't an external request, it was actually an internal request. And these were the expenditures that we chose to use the ARPA funding for this year.
So we still have some number of external requests that have been allocated but not acted upon.
Correct. There were 9 externals in the roadmap resolution that was passed in December. And I think 3 of those have been completed, but I'll go back and verify that.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
question for our county administrator. So if we max out on this and it's 5 million, what is that? Where does that put us? Would you project in terms of the balance in that?
In the 10 million?
Yeah.
Cindy, if you're still with us, do you have the running chart?
It's a hair under 7 million.
Yeah, it's right, yeah.
6.8 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's still room for,
Yeah, unless there's been updates.
and I don't think it's changed since last week, and that's correct.
So I think for me, it bears repeating that funding, that 6.8, it frees us up from having to necessarily meet the 2024, obligating it by 2024.
By moving it, yes, absolutely.
So okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any further comment or question? I'd like to thank the administrator for responding to my email so quickly with the list of terrific things that SEMCOG does.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any further questions, comment, critique, analysis? Seeing none, we've got an amended motion that's passed, but we still need a roll call vote on the basic motion, I'll call it. Proceed, please.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're on to 12J. It is number 2023-07-135. It's a resolution authorizing the county treasurer to establish Fund 234, Federal Grant Fund, and Fund 235, State and Other Grants Fund. It's brought to us by the treasurer. Can I get a motion?
So move Gross.
Support Deaton.
Moved by Commissioner Gross, supported by Commissioner Deaton. Any questions, comments, analysis for our treasurer? This was discussed at FAM. I'll close that portion of the agenda and move into a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're up to 12K. It's number 2023-07-136. And it's a resolution approving a deficit elimination plan brought to us by the treasurer. May I get a motion?
Motion Smith.
Support Helserman.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Smith, support by Commissioner Helserman. Additionally discussed at FAM. Any further questions, analysis, critique, comment? Seeing none, this will be voice vote. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 9-0. We're finished with item 12. We're on to item 13 on your scorecard. It's called Accounts Payable Reports. A, claims dated July 31st, 2023, and 13B, payables dated July 8th through July 21 of the year 2023. Can I get a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Domas,
Support Helserman.
support by Commissioner Gross. Any questions, comment, analysis? Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with my colleagues that in a conversation, well, actually multiple conversations, but regarding the Munis issue with separating the court and the county accounts payables, that is being done right now, that over the course, and I go by memory of the next couple of months, there shouldn't be any more combining of court and county invoices, so they're totally separate. So the part of the Munis resolution, that was passed regarding, the separating the court and the county is moving forward, and it'll be done, I'll say shortly, so.
Thank you. Good work.
Mr. Chair,
Proceed, Commissioner Helserman.
I just want to point out one of the items that we're paying, Heartland Township hosting fee for second quarter is $91,000. Just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Hosting has to do with septage.
Yeah, the
It's a-
septic receiving.
It's a penny a gallon.
The hosting fee
A penny.
for the second quarter was $91,234.47 to be exact.
Commissioner Gross, go ahead.
As an addendum to my colleague's report regarding the penny a gallon fee, the bills payable also included the first billing from our attorneys on the Heartland litigation, and that was
$24,000.
something in excess of $24,000 for the month of June. Thank you.
Any further comment, question, or analysis, critique? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, voice vote, okay? Thank you. All those that wish to pass resolutions 13A and B, kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 9-0, it's unanimous. We're at item 14, call to the public number 2. For anyone in the room or on Zoom, the call to the public at this point consists of 2 minutes. And we'll start with people in the room. I see we have a card.
Yes, Chuck Wright from Handy Township.
Thank you. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing up the comment about DEI and CRT and working to construct a letter that you plan to send to all the other counties. And I'd like to see that letter in the next week or next agenda so that we all can share that rather than trying to get a FOIA request. I think that'd be a positive thing. I'd also like to thank the lady on Zoom that always makes sure everyone speaks into the microphone. I don't get to make it to all the meetings, so I have to watch on Zoom or YouTube. And it's nice to hear what you all have to say. So I appreciate the person online that keeps you guys in line. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else in the room?
I don't have any additional cards.
Thank you. Zoom.
Commissioner, we do not have any on Zoom. And thank you, Chuck, for the compliment.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
I've heard a motion to adjourn by Fiani, support by Commissioner Helserman. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
9-0 passes. We're adjourned 7:39.